The old woman everyone called Grandma Ruth had not always been old, and she had not always been Ruth. When she was born in 1941 in a holler outside Pineville, Kentucky, her parents named her Mary Catherine Collins. By the time she was 16, though, almost nobody used her name anymore. She became Roy Lisa's wife and later Jimmy's grandma, and finally, when her hair went white and her shoulders stooped from years of carrying, more than any woman should, just Grandma Ruth. She was 16 when her daddy walked her down a dirt road to the little Baptist church and gave her away to Roy Lee Mullins, a man of 28 who already kept a flask of clear corn, liquor in the glove box of his rusted Ford pickup. Daddy said it was a good match. Roy Lee owned 42 acres of hillside and a frame house with a tin roof that didn't leak too bad. Mary Catherine noticed only that his knuckles were thick and scarred and that he never quite looked her in the eye when he spoke. The first time he hit her was a week after the wedding. She had scorched the cornbread because the stove wood was green. He backhanded her so hard she tasted blood and saw stars. Then he sat down and ate the rest of supper while she huddled in the corner holding a dish towel to her mouth. When he finished, he said, "It'll be better tomorrow," like love was something she had to learn to deserve. It never got better. People think women in the holler scream when their men beat them. Most learn quick that screaming just brings neighbors who stand on the porch and spit tobacco and say, "Ain't none of our business." So Mary Catherine swallowed the noise. Roy Lee used whatever was handy, his belt, a length of kindling, once the metal edge of his work boot that left a crescent scar above her eyebrow that never quite faded. In summer, he dragged her across the yard by her hair so the sun could watch. In winter, he put her out on the porch in nothing but her housecoat until her toes went numb. She bore him 4 babies. 2 died small, 1 from the fever, 1 from the runs that no amount of sassafras tea could stop. The 2 that lived were boys, Jimmy and Tommy. Roy Lee wanted sons, so he laid off her while she carried them. But the minute each boy drew breath, the fists started again. When Jimmy was 5, he ran to wrap his arms around his mama's legs while Roy Lee was swinging the belt. The buckle caught the boy across the cheek and opened a red line. That night, Roy Lee cried drunk tears into her lap, begging her to forgive him. She said she did because she didn't know any other words. A week later, the belt found her ribs again. She learned the seasons of his rage the way farmers learn weather. When the tobacco didn't bring what it should, when the mine laid men off, when his brothers laughed at him for having a wife who didn't jump fast. Enough she knew to make herself small and quiet. She kept a Maxwell's coffee can hidden under a loose floorboard in the kitchen. Inside were a few folded dollar bills and a faded Kodak picture of her own mama smiling on the courthouse steps. That can was her country. Everything else belonged to him. By the time she was 30, folks said she looked 50. Gray threaded her dark hair, and her left shoulder ached where he had once kicked it clean out of socket. Still, something fierce and quiet lived behind her eyes. She started rising before the roosters, slipping out to the garden or down to the creek bank to wash clothes with the other women. The work was hard scrubbing, overalls on a washboard, till her hands bled. But out there in the morning mist, nobody hit her. The creek didn't care what Roy Lee called her when the moonshine spoke loud. She learned small secrets. She'd skim a little cornmeal or a couple of eggs and trade them at the country store for cash money. She never let him see. She hid the bills in the coffee can. She never spent them. She just needed to know they were growing like seeds under dirt. When Jimmy turned 15, he started looking at his daddy with eyes hard as creek stone. One night, Roy Lee came in late, stinking of liquor and some other woman's dime store perfume. He raised his fist because supper wasn't hot. Jimmy stepped between them. The blow meant for her split Jimmy's ear. Blood ran down his neck. For one heartbeat, the room was silent. Then Roy Lee laughed, low and mean, and said, "Boy thinks he's grown. He beat Jimmy till Mary Catherine threw herself over her son and took the rest on her own back." Next morning, Jimmy was gone, took nothing but the clothes on his back and the old pocket knife his granddaddy gave him. 3 years passed without a word. Mary Catherine cried only once, quiet, while she was snapping beans on the porch. Then she added another $5 bill to the can. Roy Lee died at 52, drank some bad moonshine a cousin cooked up in a car radiator, went blind overnight, and choked to death on his own vomit 2 days later. Half the holler said it was the Lord's doing. Mary Catherine built the fire under the washpot herself to heat water for the laying out. She never shed a tear. When the flames on his coffin were high, something tight inside her chest finally snapped loose. She was 38 and free. Folks expected her to wear black the rest of her days and keep to the house, like a widow woman ought to. Instead, she put on the two-colored dresses she'd kept wrapped in brown paper for 22 years and wore them proud. She bought 3 more laying hens. She sent word up and down the creek through kinfolk until she found Jimmy working in a textile mill over in Gastonia, North Carolina. She mailed him bus fare and a postcard that said only, "Come when you're ready. It's quiet here now." Jimmy came home with a soft-spoken girl named Linda and a baby boy they called Caleb when Mary Catherine held her grandson for the first time. Something inside her broke open, gentle and sweet. She rocked him on the same porch glider where she used to hide bruises under long sleeves. Tommy, the younger boy, took dark after his daddy drinking, gambling, knocking his wife around. One day, Mary Catherine looked at him and saw Roy Lee staring back through his eyes. She told him straight, "Don't you bring that man's spirit across my doorstep." Again, when he raised his hand, out of old habit, she didn't move. She just looked at him steady until his arm dropped and shame turned his face red. He left the holler not long after and never came back. The place was hers now. She painted the walls fresh white with paint she bought herself. She set out zinnias and marigolds along the front walk. She taught Linda how to make cat head biscuits, light as clouds. At night, she sat on the tin roof with a quilt around her shoulders and counted stars like money in the bank. They were poor 42 acres of rocky ground, barely fed them. But she slept clear through the night without waking once to listen for footsteps. Years slipped by like creek water. The mill in Gastonia shut down. Jimmy took to driving a delivery truck. Linda had 3 more young'uns. Caleb grew long and lean and smart as a whip. The county school only went to 8th grade. So Grandma Ruth taught him after chores letters scratched on Big Chief tablets. Numbers figured on the backs of feed sack paper. Bible stories and mountain tillys told in her low, even voice. When Caleb was 12, the county finally built a new high school 4 miles down the road. He walked it twice a day till Grandma Ruth saved up and bought him a second-hand Schwinn from the junkman in town. The day he rode it up the dirt drive, she stood at the gate clapping her hands and laughing like a girl. Folks started coming to her with their troubles, young brides with fresh bruises, old women whose children never called. They sat on her porch drinking weak coffee while she listened. She never told them the beatings were God's will. She told them, "A woman ain't a punching bag. You got a life inside you, same as any man. Guard it fierce." Sometimes a scared girl would whisper, "Miss Ruth, what if he kills me?" She'd answer, "Then he'll go to prison and you'll still be dead." better to live and make him afraid of you. She taught them her quiet tricks, how to hide money in a prince, Albert can buried under the peonies, how to speak soft and carry a cast iron skillet if need be, how to look a man dead in the eye till he remembered you got a soul. Caleb graduated valedictorian of his high school class. The guidance counselor said he could get a full ride to the state university up in Lexington. Jimmy was proud but scared. Books and dorms cost money, even with a scholarship. One night, he sat on the porch swing with his mama and said, "Mama, we can't swing it." Grandma Ruth went inside and came back with the old Maxwell House can from under the floorboard. Inside were bills folded tight and small egg money, butter money. $1 here and there skimmed for 47 years. Enough for everything Caleb would need and a little left over. Jimmy's eyes filled up. "Mama, that was for you, for when you got old." She laughed, the sound like wind in dry leaves on a good day. "Son, I'm already old and it suits me fine. Let this buy your boy a new start." The day Caleb left for college, half the holler turned out at the Greyhound stop. He knelt in the dust and touched his grandma's feet the way she'd taught him was proper respect. She laid her work-worn hands on his head and blessed him in the old words her own granny used. Words whose meaning she barely knew, but whose sound felt strong as iron. After the bus pulled away, she walked slow back up the dirt road to her house. She sat under the sugar maple in the yard and closed her eyes. She was 70 now, thin as a fence rail. Back bent like a question mark nobody ever answered. Children called her Grandma Ruth and begged for stories. Nobody remembered the young bride who flinched when a door slammed. That night, the power went out all over the holler. In the dark, she lit the kerosene lamp she still kept on the shelf and set it in the window, like she had every Christmas for 50 years. She looked into the flame and spoke soft, just between her and the light. "I lived," she said. "I carried hurt heavy than coal sacks, and I still lived. These bones are cracked, and this heart's stitched with old scars, but it beats. And that's enough." Then she smiled, the kind of smile that never hurt anybody, and went inside to sleep.